Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 15th, 2024 meeting of the Conservation 2020 Lands Acquisition and Stewardship Advisory Committee. I'd like to ask everyone to rise so we can say the Pledge of Allegiance. So please do so. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Renee, if you would please call the roll.
Renee Manita for the roll call. Karen Andrus. Here. Carl Baracco. Here. Derek Potana. Here. Joseph Cruz. Here. Reggie Henderson. Here. Ron Inge. Here. Christy Knight. Here. Matthew Lincoln Hall. Here. John Paul. Here. Chris Robin. Here. Elaine Sarlo has resigned. Sawyer Smith. Shane Spring. Absent. Andrew Sund. Here. And Bridget Thoreau. Here. That's a quorum.
Thank you very much. Before we get to item number 4, I want to mention that starting now, the clerk's office and Chris back there by the Florida flag will be taking the minutes for us and keeping track of that. Renee will still be here to keep us all in line, by the way, but the clerk's office is going to be keeping the record of the meeting. So just wanted to point that out to everyone. Thank you very much, Chris, for being here. Renee, thank you for everything. You'll still be here again to keep us in line. So. Next item is a review of the minutes and approval for the April 17th meeting. Do we have any comments on the minutes as presented? Seeing none, do we have a motion for approval?
I'll move the minutes. Oh, sorry.
Between Mr. Cruz and Mr. Smith. Okay. Motion made, seconded.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. And that carries unanimously. We have a couple items on the agenda tonight that, and public comment. Just for the members of the public, there is a 3-minute time limit per speaker. Renee will keep track of that. When you see a large hook come your way, you'll know that your 3 minutes is just about up. So please be courteous of everyone and limit your comments to 3 minutes so that we can give an ample opportunity for everyone to be heard and move the items through our agenda tonight. So please help in that regard. The next item that I want to or that we have on our agenda is a staff negotiated purchase agreement for nomination 633, 5 acres in the Crew watershed. Mr. Clemens.
Good evening, all. This item is a purchase agreement that staff is recommending to go forward with. This particular property scored 79 points. The purchase price is at the appraised value. Seller will be paying dock stamps, closing fees, and for the title insurance. County will be paying recording fees, environmental audit, and survey if we choose to have one, which we most likely won't because the cost of the survey will be greater than the value of the property. And like I said, staff recommends to move forward. Anybody have any questions?
I don't have a question. I was just, we've always tried to keep the Crew stuff together, and
Clarification.
I'd like to make a motion to.
Well, hold on a minute. We're going to take public comment. Clarification. The purchase agreement. What is the price again? You want to state that?
It's $37,500. Or yeah, $37,500.
All right. Thank you. All right. Any other questions of staff by the committee? Seeing none, would anyone in the public care to address the committee on nomination 633, which is 5 acres in the Corkscrew Regional Ecosystem Watershed? There's a staff negotiated purchase agreement on the table that we will vote on shortly, perhaps. Anyone care to address the board at this time? If so, please come forward. Being none, we'll close public comment. What is your pleasure with respect to nomination 633? Karen, I believe you made a motion already.
I believe we should move it forward. We've been getting the Crew property together a very long time.
We have a motion. Second by Mr. Cruz. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Now, Renee, do we need to go, you need to call the roll and ask for affirmative yes or no for the record?
Or if there's any opposition.
All right, let's try that first. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay, and say it loudly. Seeing none, it's unanimous, so the entire record will reflect that it's unanimous approval by the committee. Thank you guys very much.
Chairman, sorry to interrupt. Who was your second on that motion?
Mr. Cruz.
Thank you so much.
Just for the sake of helping Chris along, if you make a motion and second it, maybe state your name just so that in case I overlook doing that, he'll have that for the record. Because I'm prone to overlooking things, it seems. All righty. Next item is acquisition review, nomination 622, Captiva Key LLC, 14 acres. Mr. Clemens, please give us an update and some discussion on this, sir.
Renee, can you zoom in closer on this parcel? Zoom back one, please. This is about a 14-acre tract of land on an island commonly known as Buck Key. It's surrounded by governmental-owned and conservation group ownership. The score on this was 29 points. Being that it's an infill parcel, staff recommends to forward this parcel for board consideration of acquisition. If there's any specific questions, I can answer those. Otherwise, it's a general vacant tract of land with some minor improvements now, such as, it looks like a camp. There's some structures, but it's not like a full-blown house, I don't believe. And I think there's a couple of people who are going to speak and get more specific about this overall. But in general, it is and those coastal mangrove or coastal type of vegetation on the subject property.
Thank you. Any questions of staff before we take public input? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Clemens. I have 4 cards. I'll call them in the order that I got them. Remember, you have 3 minutes to speak, and we'd ask that you come up and speak clearly into the microphone so that we can have an adequate recording of your comments. The first is Emery Wildman. If you'd please come forward. Unless any of the other speakers have any comment. Okay. All right. We'll move this around. We have Randy Thibault on item number 6, nomination 622. Please go forward. Remember, 3-minute limitation.
Hello, my name is Randy Thibault. I'm with LSI Companies. I work for Justin Thibault.
Sorry.
And I know you get a kick out of that. I'm here representing Ted Watrous, who's in the room. Ted, would you please stand up? And he's the owner and the steward of this property. And thank you for your time tonight. The Conservation 2020 has the opportunity to repurchase and save the last remaining and most valuable parcel on Buck Key, the last piece of the puzzle. The Watrous family has owned portions of Buck Key for almost half a century. Over the years, they have sold the holdings to government and conservation agencies. The map displayed on the easel shows the current ownership of Buck Key. You also have it in your handout. Everything but this piece is already in conservation. Mr. Watrous retained the most valuable piece of Buck Key, 14 acres of mostly pristine uplands for his family's personal enjoyment, with the goal of eventually selling the parcel to the government or conservation entities for long-term preservation. Mr. Watrous is now fully retired and entering the golden years of his life, so the time has come for him to monetize this asset. Therefore, he is selling the property for he's been forced to move towards selling the property for future development of a private luxury homes if it can't be preserved for conservation. That's not his goal. There's an offering memorandum we put, which is the offering memorandum to the private market. I've handed that offering memorandum out to you. It's the marketing of the private sale of the property for a total of $21 million. The last remaining piece is the crown jewel of Buck Key that has the most uplands for potential development, and it does have an existing dock. There's no other viable improvements on the property. Lee County property appraiser recently assessed the Buck Key parcel at 7.9 just value, which is 85% of market value, equating to 9.3 market value, already determined by the Lee County property appraiser. You each have a copy of that as well. Have the island developed is not Mr. Watrous' first choice, as he prefers to see it preserved forever. He is hopeful that this effort to sell to Conservation 2020 will be successful and put the property in the hands of the public forever, at a price that's equitable for he and his family. We work closely with the Sanibel Conservation Foundation and Ding Darling Wildlife Society to facilitate the long-term maintenance of the property and potentially to work with us on raising additional funds if needed. Tonight, James Evans from the Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation, and Anne Marie Wildman, who Ron called earlier, from Ding Darling, will be presenting next. I thank you for your consideration and ask you to move this forward to the Lee County Commission for their review and approval.
Thank you very much. Anne Marie, did you want Ms. Myers to speak first? Is that what you're going to say? Well, we're not used to duets, but I'm not sure if the mic will pick it up. But if you would, if you can't go back and forth because we won't be able to keep track of that in the minutes easily. Okay. So we have Anne Marie Wildman and Aaron Myers.
I'm Anne Marie Wildman, Darling Wildlife Society, and first I want to thank you for considering to preserve this key piece of property at Buck Key. It is a critical piece of property, mostly from a conservation point of view. As you're aware, we have worked with you in the past with regards to the Woodring Point, Wolfert, and we also manage, Ding Darling also manages several areas on Buck Key already, so it is a partnership that we've held and appreciated for some time. Momentarily, I'm going to be turning the floor over to Deputy Project Leader Erin Myers, and she'll speak on behalf of the agreement to continue to management if you decide to go forward with the acquisition, which we hope you will. First, from a conservation point of view, there are numerous reasons why this is an important tract of land. We have almost 300 different species of birds who reside here full-time or make a stopover during their migration. It is imperative to preserve their habitat. Mangrove and seagrasses have important habitats that are critical to the preservation of an entire community of organisms that live in the seagrass and the mangrove mud. They help to filter the water. They provide food for much needed species. So it's a whole circle of life that is there, and we need to preserve that. Dredging, stormwater runoff, and other human-induced factors will greatly affect fisheries, mangroves, wildlife habitat, just to name a few. And we're not just talking about the stress that 8 luxury homes with septic systems, fertilizers, and other day-to-day activities would have in the area, but imagine the barges that have to come in for the next 4 or 5 years bringing building supplies, outfitting the homes, and then on a continuous basis therein when people have to make their way back and forth to that island. There are no roads to bring things in, so the barging will do it. I think that would have an extremely negative impact on the area. You have to take that into consideration. So tonight, we know you'll make the right decision, but we at Ding Darling Wildlife Society thank you for your visionary work in preserving important lands all throughout Southwest Florida, and particularly this Buck Key is another piece that's an important land to preserve for future generations. And we look forward to having a continued partnership. I now turn over the microphone to Deputy Project Leader Erin Myers.
Thank you very much. Erin?
Hi, good evening. Thank you. As you've already heard, this property is the last remaining parcel on Buck Key that's not in conservation. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, State of Florida, and Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation have all made considerable investments to conserve this island. The parcel is located within the current acquisition boundary of the Jay and Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge, which would allow us to enter into a management agreement with the county for the Fish and Wildlife Service to manage it as part of the refuge. The county and service have a mutual interest in providing for consistent and uniform management of the property, its natural resources, physical characteristics, and public uses, as well as ensuring that both the property and the refuge lands be managed for the benefit of the refuge and the county. Should the county purchase these lands, the service desires that the property be managed for wildlife and habitat conservation, environmental education, and public nature-based recreation. The service and county have made previous management agreements for the Woodring property and the Wolford Bayous properties on Sanibel. In these agreements, the service manages the property consistent with our comprehensive conservation plan, subject to all pre-existing rights and interests. The service maintains those properties as part of the National Wildlife Refuge System in accordance with the National Wildlife Refuge Improvement Act and all laws, regulations, and policies applicable to the National Wildlife Refuge System. Should the county wish to purchase this property and enter into an agreement with the service would also be responsible for removal of exotic species, trash collection, and vandalism. And we would be responsible for all permitting necessary for activities conducted by the service on the property, and would be responsible for the restoration of native plant communities and disturbed areas in those areas impacted by natural disasters. This agreement would not convey the right or privilege of the service to construct buildings on the property, does not cover gas, petroleum, or petroleum products, phosphate minerals, or metals, and does not give the service the right to explore, mine, drill, to develop the same. Therefore, should the county purchase the property, we would be willing to enter into a similar agreement to manage the property as part of the J. and Dean Darling National Wildlife Refuge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next card I have is James Evans. Please come forward.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm James Evans. I'm the CEO of the Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation. First of all, I want to thank the committee for all the great work that you do in preserving the unique natural areas of Lee County. Your work is very much appreciated. I'm here tonight to speak in favor of acquiring Buck Key. SCCF currently owns and manages over 2,100 acres of land in Lee County, including 8.5 acres just to the north of the subject parcel on Buck Key. We work in partnership with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to maintain wildlife habitat on the island. Buck Key is important historically as a Calusa settlement and home to early pioneers that settled our barrier islands, as well as a famed fishing location for Theodore Roosevelt, for whom the Roosevelt Channel is named after. The island is also important ecologically. Buck Key's inimitable location on Roosevelt Channel adjacent to Captiva Island provides essential fish habitat for important game fish such as snook, redfish, sea trout, and tarpon, as well as roosting and nesting habitat and sites for a myriad of wading birds like herons, egrets, ibis, and others dependent on the bountiful bait fish and other food resources transported through Roosevelt Channel and blind paths. The island is surrounded by mangrove wetlands, as well as some of the most impressive hardwood species that I've ever seen personally. There's several specimen species on the island, on some of our lands as well as on some of the Watrous lands. The island also provides important recreational resources, including paddling tours and world-class fishing for residents, local guides, and visitors. Preserving Buck Key also enhances the resiliency of Captiva Island through the protection of existing mangroves and rare tropical hardwood hammock, and eliminating the potential for future development, as Mr. Thibault spoke to, which would require infrastructure as well as emergency services. And we have the opportunity to really enhance the resiliency of Lee County with this purchase. Acquiring the remaining 14 acres of Buck Key will also protect water quality in the region that is constantly under threat from runoff from septic and runoff from our fertilizers from our lawns and landscapes that contribute to the harmful algal blooms that impact our area, specifically the red tide bloom we experienced in 2018, which had a direct impact on our quality of life, our environment, as well as our local economy. And a recent study published by Green Economics demonstrates that poor water quality has a direct impact on Lee County's economy. And losses from another harmful algal bloom like the red tide we experienced in 2018 could result in impacts of $195 million in commercial and recreational fisheries, $6.7 billion in property values, $21.4 million in property tax revenue, and 24,000 jobs here in Lee County. We have a unique opportunity to preserve this special island in its entirety for the benefit of fish and wildlife, resources, water quality, and passive recreation. If this parcel is acquired by Lee County, SCCF is prepared to assist the county and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in maintaining the land. This may be our last chance to preserve the last privately owned parcel on Buck Key. Again, I want to thank the committee for all the great work that you do in preserving our natural resources here in Lee County, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak on this important acquisition. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Would anyone else in the audience care to address the committee at this time on nomination 622 Buck Key, 14 acres? If so, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. Any comments or thoughts by the committee relative to nomination 622?
It's a no-brainer. I nominate to put it forward.
Yeah, I'll second that motion, but I've got a comment to make, which is that, we've sat here before as a committee and talked about how the development is unlikely on a piece of property. However, when you look at this property and you think about where we are as a community and our culture and in our time, we don't know where we're going to be in 100 years, and it could be a bunch of people that we really dislike sitting around this, U-shaped table that doesn't think the way we do. So, Mr. DeBow, I would like you to call your son and let him know that you announced to the public that you work for him, which is, I'd like hearing that. It's funny. Somebody who works for his father, paid him a lot of damn money to work for him. I do appreciate that, but regardless, it is true. This is a piece of property that is, we've all, well, some of us, we've all caught snook and redfish outside. And by the way, it's called snook, not snook, but it's a snook. And we've all caught fish there, and we have a opportunity here in our lifetime which will not come again. So, Mr. Cruz, I do appreciate your comments, and I absolutely second the motion to purchase this property and preserve it and preserve our way of life for generations to come.
Amen.
Thank you very much. So we have a motion
Yes, sir.
second. Does anyone else have any comments that they'd like to tender at this time? Yes, sir.
A quick comment. I agree. This is a jewel. This is what we're here for. But the score, I think, is illustrative of maybe some work that we need to do moving forward to maybe reorient ourselves so that we can properly reflect how valuable these sorts of parcels are, because I understand how it got to 29, but again, maybe we need to reorient that scoring system to properly reflect how valuable parcels like this are.
Well, if I may, I think that the scoring system is one tool, but
Understood.
what we're supposed to bring to the table is the very thing you're talking about. Is okay, let's step back from a little bit different height, 30,000 feet, and look and go, does this make sense for these other reasons in addition to the scoring? So thank you for mentioning that, but that's not, as you all know, that's not the determining factor, but it is something we certainly
Have factored into our discussion of parcels.
Yes, sir. It has, yes, sir. Any further comments? Thank you for that comment, Mr. Robin.
Mr. Chairman, before the vote,
Mr. Bracco?
I'd like to, because this is a sensitive area and it's in close proximity to South Seas Island Resort, which is a significant project that I'm currently engaged with, I'd like to recuse myself from this vote.
All right, Mr. Baracco is going to recuse himself from the vote and has not participated in the discussions. Please let the record reflect that. Any further comments? We have a motion. Pardon me? Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. And that carries unanimously. Thank you guys very much for that. Thanks to everyone in the audience that came to talk about this, and all the best as we move forward with this. Next item are our staff and committee updates. The first is item 7A. Those would be the status of management efforts. Mr. Young, please tell us what's happening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to cover a couple of the 2020 properties that our park rangers are so tirelessly trying to take care of and patrol to make sure everything's going good. San Carlos Bay Bunch Beach, Ranger Foot Patrol, evidence of people burning wood pallets, so they're going to stay on top of that and patrol that area. Prairie Pines Preserve, Rangers repaired a damaged fence that someone ran over. Again, some vandalism there. Also, 6 Mile Cycle Slough, the north side, a lot of vandalism going on there too. So staff and rangers are keeping an eye on those properties to make sure everything goes well. And also, I want to bring FYI for Wild Turkey Strand. There's going to be some trail enhancement projects going on there. They're going to replace the trail with boardwalk due to flooding on the trail, and adding a shortcut trail to the existing loop with the boardwalk also. And the funding has been requested for FY 24-25. As soon as we get the funding, we'll get this approved and start the work. That's it.
Thank you for that. Any questions of Mr. Young? Please speak. All right, thank you all very much. Thanks for that report, sir. Yes, sir. The next item, many of y'all might have received an email from the Florida Ethics Commission, I believe, on the financial forms that we have to file, but just in case, Mr. Halverson is going to give us an update on what we have to do relative to that and any other filings that we need to make sure that we all properly do that, since it's a change in how we've had to handle it in the past. Mr. Halverson.
Thanks, Ron. As Ron just mentioned, a lot of you probably received this letter and an email from the Florida Commission on Ethics. If any of you did not, I have copies for you all, so if you want to just pass it down. As a member of this committee, you're required to submit a Form 1, which is a statement of financial interest. In past years, you may have filled out a hard copy of this and mailed it in. This year, you're required to file it electronically on the Commission's website. This letter contains instructions on e-filing, and I also have here, I found this on the Commission's website, it's just a quick e-filing tips and important reminders handout. So, pass that as well. The website itself, on the Commission's website, has a short 2-minute video that provides instructions on creating a profile and e-filing. I've spoken with a few people who've actually e-filed the Form 1. It seems like a pretty straightforward process. Has anyone on the committee already e-filed their Form 1? I see several hands. So you need to file this on the website on or before July 1st of this year. Failure to timely file this may result in daily fines or investigation from the commission. And for any members that are absent, we'll make sure that they get the same information. So with that, that's all I have. If there's any questions, let me know.
Any questions of Mr. Halverson? I suspect you'll be available if we go through it and get stumbled up in something, we can give you a call.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this is in lieu of the other one we used.
Paper one we've had to do. Alrighty. Next item on our agenda is public comment. Would anyone in the audience care to address the committee? Please come forward. Please, ma'am.
Sherry Wheaton Morris, and I'm a Lee County citizen, and hike every 2020 preserve. And Mr. Young, I just want to tell you, your staff is doing a phenomenal job. Yesterday, we were at Bunch Beach. There was an incident with a very disturbed man, and the ranger was on it and handled everything very well. So I just want to let you know that everybody is doing a fabulous job of taking care of these preserves, and we much appreciate it.
We appreciate it. We'll pass that along.
Thank you very much for that comment. That's great to hear. Thank you. Anyone else in the audience care to address the committee? Please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. The next item, or excuse me, our next meeting will be Wednesday, June 19th, 5:30 p.m., same location here. Any other items that need to come before us? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Sun, or second by Karen Andrus, or vice versa. Either way.
We're out of here.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming, and thanks everyone in the public for coming and speaking as well.